The Veldan Empire had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. They had conquered 900 worlds. They had crushed species that built cities of light and civilizations that spanned entire solar systems. To them, the universe was simple. The strong took what they wanted. The weak died or served. There was no other way. When their long-range scanners found a small blue planet sending primitive radio signals into space, Emperor Torvax barely looked up from his throne. Another primitive world, another easy harvest. He gave the order without much thought, the way a man might swat a fly.
Else.
Send a subjugation fleet, he said. Standard protocol. The fleet that arrived in Earth's solar system was not their largest. It did not need to be. 200 ships, each one a kilometer long, carrying enough firepower to crack a planet in half. High Prelate Ixan commanded from the lead vessel. He was old, even by Veldan standards. He had done this many times before. He expected to be done within a week. On Earth, it was a Tuesday morning. Sergeant Una Park stood at her observation post near the DMZ. The border between North and South Korea. The sun was just coming up. The sky was clear and blue. Birds were singing in the trees behind her. She was thinking about the letter she would write to her mother that evening. Then the sky turned. White Una threw herself to the ground as a wave of heat passed over her. When she looked up, there was a column of fire where Seoul used to be. 20 million people, gone in less than a second. Across the world, the same thing was happening. New York vanished under a pillar of light. Shanghai burned. Moscow crumbled. Snow, Paulo, Cairo, Sydney, London one by one. The great cities of Earth disappeared. The Veldan weapons were precise and terrible. They did not waste energy. They simply erased. 2 billion people died in the first 7 minutes. When the fires stopped, High Prelate Ixan broadcast his message. His translators had studied human languages from intercepted signals. The words came through every surviving radio, television, and phone on the planet. Submit, the alien voice said. Kneel. Serve. You have no choice. Resistance means death. In a bunker deep beneath the mountains of Gangwon Province, General Tae Kim listened to the message. He was 63 years old. He had served his country for 4 decades. He had never seen war like this. He had never imagined war like this. Around him, the bunker was chaos. Officers shouted into dead phones. Screens showed nothing but static. Reports came in pieces, fragments of horror from a world that was burning. How many? Tae asked. His voice was quiet. A young lieutenant looked at him with hollow eyes. We don't know, sir. Billions. Maybe more. Tae closed his eyes. For a moment, he let himself feel it, the weight of all those deaths, all those families, all those futures erased. Then he opened his eyes and became a soldier again. Who's left? He asked. The answer came slowly, painfully. The world's capitals were gone. Most governments had been decapitated in the first strike. But pockets of military leadership had survived, scattered, isolated, but alive. Admiral Seokbeek had been at sea when the attack came. His submarine fleet was intact. Dr. Hannah Cho, a physicist who had been visiting family in a small coastal town, had already begun gathering surviving scientists. And across the globe, soldiers like Yuna were still standing. Still waiting for orders, Tae sent out a simple message on every frequency he could reach. All surviving military personnel, report to emergency coordinates. We are not beaten. We are not done. 3 days later, Yuna arrived at the mountain bunker. She had walked most of the way, moving through a landscape of ash and silence. The roads were clogged with abandoned cars. The cities were tombs. But she kept moving, because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant feeling, and she could not afford to feel. Not yet. When she entered the command center, Tae was studying a map of the alien fleet positions. Hannah was beside him, examining data from a captured drone. Admiral Seok was connected via secure radio from his submarine. Sergeant Park, Tae said without looking up. You were at the DMZ observation post? You saw the first strike. Yes, sir. Tell me what you saw. Una hesitated. The ships, sir. When they fired, they flickered. Everyone in the room stopped. Tay finally looked at her, flickered. He asked, Their lights dimmed, Una said. Just for a moment. Every time they fired, the whole ship went dark for a second, like they were using everything they had. Hannah stepped forward, her eyes suddenly bright. Power consumption. If they have to divert all energy to their weapon systems, then they're not invincible. Siok's voice crackled through the radio. They have limits. They're conserving resources. Tay studied the young sergeant. She was covered in dust and ash. Her uniform was torn, but her eyes were clear and steady. What do you think it means? He asked. Una met his gaze without flinching. It means they expected this to be easy, sir. They sent just enough to beat us. They think we're already finished. And are we? For a long moment, Una was silent. She thought about Seoul burning. She thought about her mother, who had been visiting the city that morning. She thought about the alien voice, demanding surrender, demanding obedience, as if humanity was nothing more than cattle waiting to be herded. No, sir, she said finally. We haven't even started fighting. High Prelate Ixon waited for the surrender that never came. His communications officers monitored every frequency. His scouts scanned every continent. But there was only silence from the planet below. They are in shock, his advisors assured him. They will break soon. They always do. Ixon was not so certain. He had conquered many worlds, and he had learned to read the patterns of defeat. The dying always made noise pleas for mercy, offers of submission, desperate bargains for survival. But from Earth there was nothing. Just silence, and silence in his experience was never good. He did not know that beneath the mountains, in bunkers and caves and hidden rooms across the planet, humanity was doing something his species had never encountered. They were not panicking. They were not praying. They were not surrendering. They were planning. Tay stood before a room full of survivors' soldiers. Scientists, engineers, doctors, ordinary people who had lost everything and had nothing left but their anger. They hit us first, he said. They killed billions. They think we're beaten. He looked at Una, standing in the back of the room. Show them how wrong they are. High Prelate Ixon stood on the bridge of his command ship and stared at the blue planet below. 72 hours had passed since the first strike. By now, the primitives should have been begging for mercy. They should have been offering their leaders as sacrifices, their resources as tribute, their bodies as food for the long journey home. But there was only silence. His second in command, a younger officer named Vex, approached with a data tablet. Still nothing, High Prelate. No surrender broadcasts. No diplomatic channels. No organized resistance. No resistance. Ixon repeated. The word tasted wrong in his mouth, none that we can detect. Our ground forces have encountered no military units. The surviving population centers show no signs of activity. It's as if they've simply ... stopped. Exxon's compound eyes focused on the planet's surface. Cities still burned. Smoke rose in great columns that could be seen from orbit, and yet something felt wrong. He had done this 900 times before. He knew what defeat looked like. This did not look like defeat. Double our surveillance, he ordered. I want to know what they're doing. The humans were doing exactly what Ixon feared most. They were doing nothing that he could see, because they had learned long ago that visible resistance was easy to crush. Instead, they were becoming invisible. Deep beneath the ocean, Admiral Siok Beak sat in the control room of his submarine. 12 vessels remained in his fleet, running silent in the cold darkness of the Pacific. They had not surfaced since the attack. They had not sent a single transmission that could be intercepted, but they were not idle, using underwater communication cables that predated satellite technology. Siok was connected to military commanders across the world. The old systems, the ones that everyone had forgotten about, still worked. The aliens had destroyed the satellites and the cell towers and the internet hubs. They had not thought to destroy the copper wires lying on the ocean floor. We're gathering strength, COK reported to General Tay. Submarine forces from 6 nations are now under unified command. We have torpedoes, missiles, and crews who are very, very angry. In the mountain bunker, Tay nodded. Good. Stay hidden. Wait for my signal. Across the world, similar conversations were happening. In Africa, resistance cells communicated through drum signals and runners, methods their ancestors had used for centuries. In South America, ham radio operators formed networks that spanned continents. In Europe, messages traveled by hand, carried by cyclists and hikers through mountain passes the aliens never thought to watch. Humanity was organizing. But they were doing it the old way, the slow way, the way that left no electronic footprint for alien sensors to detect. Dr. Hannah Cho worked in a converted salt mine in the countryside. 50 scientists had gathered their survivors from universities and research centers that no longer existed. They had salvaged equipment from the ruins. They had built laboratories from scraps, and they had one precious resource, the wreckage of a Velden drone that Yuna's team had shot down. The technology is advanced, Hannah explained to her team, but it's not magic. It follows physics. If it follows physics, we can understand it. If we can understand it, we can break it. She held up a fragment of the drone's power core. They use a form of plasma containment we haven't seen before. But look at this. She pointed to a series of stress fractures in the metal. Their reactors run hot. Too hot. They sacrifice durability for power. A young engineer named Minho raised his hand. What does that mean in practical terms? Hannah smiled for the first time in weeks. It means if we can force them to overheat, their own weapons will destroy them. Meanwhile, Yuna led a small team into the ruins of Busan. The city was a graveyard now, empty and silent. Alien patrols moved through the streets, but they were careless. They expected no resistance. They were looking for survivors to harvest, not soldiers to fight. Yuna and her team moved at night, hiding in the rubble during the day. They watched. They learned. They mapped the alien patrol patterns and noted their weaknesses. On the 3rd night, they found what they were looking for. A Velden soldier, wounded and separated from its unit. The creature was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with gleaming chitin armor and compound eyes that reflected the moonlight. But it was limping, dragging one leg, and it did not see Yuna until she was already upon it. The fight was brief and brutal. 2 of Yuna's soldiers died. But when it was over, the alien was their prisoner. They dragged it back to the bunker in chains. Hannah worked for hours with translation software, trying to make the creature talk. When it finally did, the words it spoke changed everything. You do not understand, the alien said, its voice a clicking rasp. We are not conquerors. We are harvesters. Your kind is not meant to serve. Your kind is meant to feed. Yuna felt her blood turn cold. What do you mean, feed? The alien's compound eyes glittered. The journey between stars is long. Our hive ships require sustenance, protein, biomass. It made a sound that might have been laughter. Your species breeds quickly and has soft flesh. You are ideal livestock. Silence filled the room. Tay looked at the creature with an expression that Yuna had never seen before. Not just anger, but something deeper, something colder. They're not here to enslave us, he said quietly.
Us.
They're here to eat us. He turned to his communications officer. Send a message to every surviving human on this planet. Tell them what we just learned. Tell them exactly what these things plan to do with us. The message went out that night. Traveling through underwater cables and ham radio waves and handwritten notes passed from runner to runner, it reached mountain villages and hidden bunkers and survivors huddled in the ruins of their cities. And something changed. The silence that had confused the Velden was not the silence of defeat. It had been the silence of shock, of grief, of a species trying to understand what had happened to it. But now, as the truth spread, the silence transformed into something else. It became the silence of rage. High Prelate Ixan received reports from his ground forces. They were finding strange things now. Traps set in the ruins, primitive but effective. Supply lines were being sabotaged. Soldiers were disappearing on patrol and never returning. They're fighting back, Vex reported, his voice uncertain. Of course they're fighting back, Ixan said. All primitives fight back. It means nothing. But deep in his ancient heart, he was not so sure. He had seen 900 species bow before the might of the Velden Empire. He had never seen one that fought like this without hope, without mercy, without any apparent desire to survive. He had never seen a species that seemed to want nothing more than to take as many Velden with them as they could, and for the first time in his long life, High Prelate Ixan felt something he did not recognize. It was fear. 6 months after the first strike, Earth had become a nightmare for the Velden Empire. They had expected a quick harvest a few weeks to round up the survivors, load them onto transport ships, and return home with enough biomass to feed their hive for centuries. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a war that made no sense. The humans did not fight like any species they had encountered before. They did not form armies that could be destroyed. They did not defend positions that could be overwhelmed. They did not have leaders who could be killed or captured. They were everywhere and nowhere, striking without warning. Disappearing before retaliation could come, they fought like a virus. General Takim had reorganized what remained of humanity's military into something new. There were no more divisions or battalions. There were only small groups of fighters who operated independently, making their own decisions, choosing their own targets. If one cell was destroyed, the others kept fighting. If 10 cells were destroyed, 100 more rose to take their place. Every surviving factory had been converted to weapon production. Car plants now made missiles. Pharmaceutical companies created poisons designed specifically for Velden biology. Toy manufacturers built drones packed with explosives. Anything that could hurt the invaders was being built, and it was being built fast. Admiral Syokbeek struck first. His submarine fleet had been waiting in the depths of the Pacific for months, silent and patient. When the Velden harvesting ship descended toward Jeju Island to collect survivors, Syok gave the order. 12 submarines fired simultaneously. 40 torpedoes rose from the deep, their engines screaming through the water. The Velden ship had shields designed to stop energy weapons and missiles. It did not have shields designed to stop explosives coming from beneath the ocean's surface. The first torpedo hit the underside of the hull. The second hit the same spot. By the 5th impact, the shields had failed. By the 20th, the ship was breaking apart. It crashed into the sea with a sound that could be heard for 100 kilometers. 7,000 Velden soldiers drowned in an ocean they had never expected to fear. Their bodies washed up on the shores of Korea for weeks afterward. It was humanity's first major victory, would not be the last. Yuna had been promoted to captain. She did not feel proud of it. The promotion came because everyone above her was dead. But she accepted the responsibility and the command that came with it. Her target was a Velden forward operating base in the mountains near Pyongyang. The aliens had established it to coordinate their harvest operations in northern Asia. It was heavily defended, surrounded by force fields and patrol drones and soldiers who never slept. But Yuna had studied the aliens for months. She knew their patterns. She knew their weaknesses. And she knew something they did not expect. She knew how to be patient. Her team moved only at night, crawling through valleys and forests, hiding in caves during the day. They communicated through hand signals and memorized code words. They carried no electronics that could be detected. It took 2 weeks to reach the base. Another week to study its defenses, another week to plan the attack. When Yuna finally moved, she did not attack the walls or the gates or the guards. Instead, her team infiltrated the drainage system, a network of tunnels that the Velden used to dispose of waste. The aliens had not thought to defend it. They had not imagined that anyone would crawl through filth and darkness. Just to reach them, they were wrong. Yuna's team emerged inside the base at midnight. They moved like shadows, killing silently, planting explosives on power generators and ammunition stores. By the time the alarm sounded, half the base was already burning. The Velden soldiers rushed to respond, but they found no army to fight. They found only smoke and fire and enemies who vanished before they could be caught. When dawn came, the base was a ruin, and 300 Velden lay dead. Yuna lost 12 soldiers. She memorized each of their names and promised herself she would never forget them. Hi, Prelate, Ixon, received the reports with growing dread. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. Not every battle, not every encounter, but enough. Too many. Request reinforcements from the Empire, his advisors urged. Tell them we need more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. But Ixon knew what that request would mean. It would mean admitting failure. It would mean telling Emperor Torvax that a primitive species with no starships and no advanced technology had fought the Velden to a standstill. It would mean the end of his career, possibly his life. Still, he had no choice. His message to the homeworld was carefully worded. But the truth came through clearly. The humans do not surrender. They do not negotiate. They do not flee. When we destroy their warriors, their elderly take up arms. When we destroy the elderly, their children sabotage our equipment. When we destroy the children, they die and curse us, with weapons hidden in their own bodies. He paused before adding the words that he knew would seal his fate. I do not believe they know how to stop. Back on Earth, Dr. Hannah Cho had made a breakthrough. Working with the captured Velden technology, she had finally understood how their communication systems worked. More importantly, she had figured out how to use them. We can send a signal, she told Tay. Not just to the ships in orbit. We can reach their homeworld. We can talk to their emperor directly. Tay looked at her with tired eyes. He had not slept properly in months. None of them had. What would we say? He asked. Hannah smiled, and there was nothing cold in that smile. That depends. Do we want to negotiate? Or do we want to warn them? For a long moment, Tay was silent. He thought about the 2 billion dead. He thought about the cities that were now tombs. He thought about the children who would never grow up and the parents who would never see them again. No negotiations, he said finally. Not with things that wanted to eat us. We warn them. We let them know exactly what's coming. Hannah nodded. I was hoping you'd say that. The message was prepared over the following weeks. Not words could be misunderstood or ignored. Instead, they sent an image, Earth, scarred and burning, but still defiant. Behind the planet, human ships were rising crewed vessels built from salvage technology and pure determination, heading toward the stars, and beneath the image. One sentence in the Velden language, we are coming. Emperor Torvax received the transmission in his throne room. His advisors told him it was a bluff. The humans had no way to cross the vast distance between stars. They were trapped on their dying world, but Torvax had ruled for 1,000 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He recognized something in that image, something in those words. He recognized a threat, and for the first time in his long reign, he wondered if his empire had made a terrible mistake. 1 year after the sky turned white, humanity sent its message to the stars. Dr. Hannah Cho stood in the heart of her makeshift laboratory. Surrounded by captured alien technology and human engineering, the device before her was ugly, a tangle of wires and circuits and salvaged parts, but it worked. It could reach across the light years to the Velden homeworld. Are you sure about this? Asked Minho, her young assistant. Once we send this, there's no taking it back. Hannah looked at the screen showing the transmission ready to send. They came to our world. They killed billions of our people. They planned to eat the rest. Her voice was steady and cold. They need to know what they started. She pressed the button. The signal raced outward at the speed of light, carrying its payload of images and warnings. It would take years to reach the Velden homeworld, but Hannah had also transmitted it to every Velden ship and outpost within range. The message would spread through the Empire like a virus. High Prelate Ixon received it on his command ship. He watched the images of human ships rising from Earth's surface, crewed vessels that should not have been capable of leaving the atmosphere. He read the translated sentence beneath them. We are coming. His advisors laughed. A bluff, they said. Those ships cannot even reach their own moon efficiently. They have no faster-than-light capability. They cannot threaten us. But Ixon did not laugh. He had been watching the humans for a year now. He had seen what they could do when they were motivated. He had learned, painfully, never to underestimate them. What are they really building? He asked his intelligence officers. The answer came back days later, pieced together from intercepted communications and captured prisoners. The humans were not building warships. They were building something far more terrifying. Probes, thousands of them. Small automated vessels designed to be launched in every direction, toward every star system the Velden had ever touched. And each probe carried a simple payload, a microscopic virus engineered specifically for Velden biology. They cannot reach us with armies, Ixon realized, his blood turning cold. They do not need to. They only need to reach us with disease. He sent an urgent message to Emperor Torvax. The humans are developing biological weapons. They intend to exterminate our species. We must destroy them completely now, before it is too late. But the Emperor's response was slow to come. The Velden Empire was vast, and its bureaucracy moved like a glacier. By the time reinforcements could be organized and sent, months or years might pass. Months or years in which the humans would continue to grow stronger. On Earth, General Tae Kim addressed what remained of the United Nations. 3,000 delegates had gathered in a cave system beneath the Alps, representing the scattered remnants of human civilization. They came from every continent, every culture, every nation that still existed. Tae stood before them, a tired old man in a worn uniform. But when he spoke, his voice filled the cavern. 1 year ago they came to our world, he said. They destroyed our cities. They killed our families. They planned to harvest us like cattle, to feed their ships on the long journey between stars. He paused, letting the silence settle. They expected us to break. They expected us to surrender. They expected us to be like every other species they had conquered, helpless, hopeless, ready to die without a fight. His eyes swept across the assembled faces, Korean, American, Nigerian, Brazilian, Indian, Russian, German, Japanese, Egyptian, Australian, the survivors of a shattered world. United by their shared suffering, they were wrong. A murmur ran through the crowd. Tae raised his hand for silence. In the past year, we have destroyed 67 of their ships. We have killed over 50,000 of their soldiers. We have captured their technology and turned it against them. We have shown them that humans are not prey. Humans are predators. He took a step forward. Now we send them a new message. Not a plea for mercy. Not an offer of surrender. We tell them what is coming. We tell them that we will not stop until every Velden ship is burning in space, until every Velden outpost is rubble, until the memory of their empire is nothing but ash. A voice called out from the crowd, "But can we actually reach them? They're light years away. We don't have their technology." Ace smiled grimly. "We don't need to reach them with ships. Dr. Cho has developed something better." He nodded to Hannah, who stepped forward and activated a display. "This is Project Genesis," she explained, showing images of the automated probes. Each probe carries a biological payload virus designed to target Velden DNA specifically. It won't affect humans or any other species. Only them. She zoomed in on the probe design. "We're building 10,000 of these. Each one will be sent to a different Velden-controlled system. They don't need to be fast. They don't need to be armed. They just need to arrive." "How long will it take?" someone asked. "Years, decades for the most distant targets. But we have time," and his expression hardened. "And so do the viruses. They'll remain dormant until they reach a Velden population. Then they'll activate." The delegates erupted in discussion. Some were horrified. They were talking about genocide, about wiping out an entire species. Others argued that the Velden had started this war, that they had planned to exterminate humanity first. Tae raised his hand again. "I know some of you have doubts. I know this feels wrong. Believe me, I wish there was another way." He pulled up images of the destroyed cities, Seoul, New York, London, the others. The tombs of 2 billion people. "They didn't give us a choice," he said quietly. "They hit us first. They planned to eat us. Every man, woman, and child on this planet was marked for harvest. If we show mercy now, if we let them retreat and rebuild, they will come back. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in a century, but someday they will return, and they will finish what they started. He met the eyes of every delegate in turn. We cannot let that happen. Not for ourselves. Not for our children. Not for every species they would harvest next. The vote was not unanimous, but it was overwhelming. Project Genesis was approved in the mountain bunker. Una watched the broadcast with her surviving soldiers. She had lost count of how many friends she had buried in the past year, how many battles she had fought, how many aliens she had killed. She felt no joy at the news, no satisfaction, only a cold, hard determination. They hit us first, she murmured to herself. We're going to hit them last. Beside her, one of her soldiers looked up. Captain, do you really think we can win? Una considered the question. The Veldan Empire had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. They had technology beyond anything humans had ever imagined. They had fleets and armies and resources that dwarfed anything Earth could produce, but they had never faced an enemy like humanity. They had never faced a species that refused to die, that refused to surrender, that refused to stop fighting, no matter the cost. Yes, she said finally, I think we already are. The Veldan Empire had existed for 12,000 years because they understood one simple truth. Power was everything. The strong conquered. The weak submitted. There was no room for sentiment or mercy or doubt. But now, for the first time in their long history, they faced a choice they had never confronted before. Continue the war with humanity, risk extinction, or retreat, admit defeat. Emperor Torvak sat on his throne, surrounded by advisors who had no answers. The reports from Earth were devastating. 2 years of fighting had cost the Empire over 400 ships and nearly 1 million soldiers. The humans were still building, still fighting, still spreading their biological weapons toward every corner of Veldan space. We cannot win, said Grand Admiral Corvex, the highest military authority in the Empire. Not quickly, not cleanly. Every day we stay, they grow stronger. Every day we fight, they learn more about us. Then we destroy them completely, growled General Sean. Send the entire fleet. We burn their planet to glass. We end this. And if we do? Corvex replied, the virus probes they've already launched will still reach our worlds. Millions of our people will still die. Destroying Earth won't save us. The Emperor raised one gnarled hand, and silence fell. What do they want? He asked. The advisors looked at each other. It was a question none of them had considered. They want revenge, Corvex said slowly. They want us to suffer as they have suffered, and we must speak to them, the Emperor decided. We must find out if there is any way to end this war that does not end with the death of our species. High Prelate Exon was recalled from Earth in disgrace. His failure to subdue the primitives had cost the Empire more than any defeat in its history. He expected to be executed upon his return. Instead, the Emperor gave him one final mission. You know these humans better than anyone, Torvak said. You have fought them, studied them, lost to them. Now you will speak to them. Find out what it will take to end this war. Exon bowed his head. And if they refuse, then we die fighting, the Emperor replied. As our ancestors would have wanted, Kizan returned to Earth under a flag of truce. His ship descended through an atmosphere thick with smoke and ash, landing in a field that had once been a rice paddy. Human soldiers surrounded the vessel, their weapons raised, their eyes hard with hatred, and standing at their front was a small woman in a worn uniform. With cold eyes and steady hands, Colonel Una Parkexon recognized her immediately. He had seen the reports. He knew what she had done to his forces, how many of his soldiers she had killed, how many of his bases she had destroyed. She was the most decorated warrior in human history, and she was looking at him like he was already dead. High Prelate, she said. Her voice was calm, almost polite. You wanted to talk, his Exon replied. He stepped down from his ship, his ancient body moving slowly. He was old, even by Veldan standards. He had seen more battles than he could count, but he had never felt so small as he did now, standing before this human woman. My Emperor offers a complete withdrawal, he said. All Veldan forces will leave your system. We will never return. We will declare Earth forbidden territory. You will be safe. Yuna studied him for a long moment. And the virus probes? You would recall them. Destroy them. The war would end. The war would end, Yuna repeated. And you would go home. Back to your empire, back to your fleets and your armies. And you would find another world, another species, another people to harvest. Xan hesitated. This is war. Conquest. It is the natural order. No, Yuna said. This was a mistake. She stepped closer, and Xan found himself backing away. The human was half his size, armed with nothing but a sidearm, but something in her eyes made him feel like prey. You killed 2 billion people, she continued. Mothers, fathers, children. You burned our cities and planned to eat the survivors. And now you want to leave? You want us to let you go back to your empire and do this to another world? Another species that can't fight back? We will not target other species, Xan promised. We will, you're lying. Yuna's voice was flat, certain. You've been doing this for 12,000 years? You'll never stop. Unless we stop you. Xan's compound eyes flickered. Then you reject our offer? You choose continued war? Yuna shook her head slowly. We don't want war, High Prelate. We never did. We were scientists and farmers and teachers and artists. We built things. We created things. We loved and laughed and dreamed of futures we would never see. Her voice hardened. You took that from us. You came to our world, and you took everything. And now, you expect us to be reasonable? To negotiate? To accept peace? She leaned forward, and for the first time in his ancient life, High Prelate Xan understood fear. Not the fear of death he had faced that many times, but something deeper. The fear of something that could not be stopped. We don't want peace, Yuna said softly. We want you to understand what you started. We will chase you across every star in this galaxy. We will hunt your children and your children's children. We will find every world you've ever touched, and we will burn the memory of your empire from existence. She paused, letting the words sink in. Not because we have to. Because you made us want to. Xan's voice was barely a whisper. Then there is no hope for peace. Yuna stepped back. There is one way. Your emperor can order the dissolution of your empire. Your fleets will be destroyed. Your worlds will be monitored. You will never harvest another species again. That is not surrender, Xan said. That is extinction. No, Yuna replied. Extinction is what you planned for us. This is justice. She turned to walk away, then stopped. Tell your emperor something for me, she said. Tell him what I told you before the first battle, when your ships darkened our sky, and you thought we were just another primitive species waiting to be harvested. Xan's translator crackled. What did you tell me? Yuna looked back, and for just a moment, something that might have been a smile crossed her face. The galaxy hit Earth first. The Empire realizes humanity has declared war. She paused. And I warned you. 50 years later, the United Earth Fleet reached the edges of what had once been Veldan space. The Empire had collapsed decades earlier, torn apart by rebellion and plague and the endless pressure of human vengeance. The new ambassador stood on the bridge of the flagship, looking at the ruins of a civilization that had once ruled the stars. She was Dr. Hannah Cho's granddaughter, born after the war, raised on stories of sacrifice and suffering. She broadcast a message to the surviving Veldan worlds we remember. We always will. But we did not come to destroy you. We came to make sure you never forget what happens when you strike first. Monuments were built on the Veldan homeworld. Not monuments to human victory, monuments to the 2 billion who died when the sky turned white, and carved into the base of each monument. In 100 languages, both human and alien, were the same words, never again.